reserve in your currency. Splurging millions buying houses like Monopoly.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of No BS with Birchie podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. So on that note, today I'm going to be talking about motivation and what keeps us motivated and, how to keep focused and, on track with your goals and with your plans. In the world that we live in today, there's, any time in life, but especially today when you've got access to information and media and all different stuff, what keeps us away from, going off tangents and onto cheap thrills and getting distracted from our core purpose? And that'll probably be one of the biggest things that we talk about today. Because it's not by chance or by luck or by fluking that I was able to go to do some of the things that I've done in my life. And quite often I talk about from a property perspective, I've bought all these properties and done this stuff with property and all that sort of stuff. However, there's a lot more hurdles, and I talk to some of my mates on a regular basis and we sort of laugh. Like, some people think that my life is very easy and things are so great and all that sort of stuff. Like all of us, we all have challenges, we all have hurdles, we all have things that hold us back in life, but it's how you deal with them and how you overcome them and how you push forward. People talk about IQ, but emotional intelligence, EQ, is equally, if not more important than your IQ, because how you deal with things, how you focus on things, and how you treat things is very important. Because there's so many people that might be smart or intelligent, but they get caught up on emotion, or they do things for the wrong decisions, and get further and further away from their goals and ultimately waste their life not achieving the things that they want to do. So today I'm going to talk about struggles in life, how to overcome it. At all different points in my life there has been struggles, whether it be just starting out, getting my first deposit, whether it be getting my first mortgage, whether it be getting my first girlfriend, whatever the case may be. There's always been some form of struggle, and it's getting through those struggles. And then I said to one of my mates a few years ago, he always referenced back to this, but at every new level that I feel like I've gone through in life, there's been a new devil there. New levels bring new devils, and going through new sort of layers of growth and breaking through, it requires a different version of yourself. I always kind of think to myself when I'm going to do something, like every sort of 3 months to 6 months, just like a baby grows, like 3 months it changes, every 3 months it grows, it starts crawling, walking, talking, all that sort of stuff. As adults, we just stop growing. Like, we need to continuously evolve and be the person that you need to be today to get through that next level. And my mate that I was telling about the new levels bring new devils, he's like, fuck Birchie, that's so true. Every time I try to push forward, there's always something holding me back. And at that point, people get controlled by that, right? They get to this new level, and there's a gatekeeper there that tries to hold them back, and it does hold them back, holds them back from their goals and their position. Looking at how to overcome that is a big thing. So for me, starting out, it wasn't easy getting my first property. Like, I failed every grade from kindergarten to year 12, and I'm not here to give like my sob story and go, oh, poor me, because there's enough people out there doing that. However, pushing through, there's lots of things that I could sit here and use as reasons as to why I haven't gotten somewhere, or as an excuse. But, those things I didn't use as an excuse. I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? Something's holding me back. There's that devil or whatever that's holding you back from getting to the new level. What do I need to do to get through that? And I think it's important to have clarity. I talk about goals. I talk about, understanding of your why and what you're trying to do. Without having clarity, you can be easily distracted because you don't even know what your goal is. You don't even know where you're going. If you've got clarity, in life, you've got clarity on what you need to be doing, then you can be reassessing and realigning yourself on a daily, a weekly, a quarterly, biannual sort of basis, or a yearly basis, and go, okay, am I being the person that I need to be to get through this time in my life? Am I being the person I need to be? Am I doing the things that are in line? But if you don't even know, that person you need to be because you haven't spent that time planning for that, then how do you know what you need to show up and be for that day? So having clarity, having goals, having dreams is all good, but working out action plans and working out the steps of the person that it requires. Throughout life, I guess there's probably 20 different seasons that I've been through of the person that I've had to change, and it starts within. And a lot of people don't look at that like it's a mindset of, when I first started buying property, I was broke. I had to work 2 jobs, I had to hustle, I had to do whatever it takes to get those deposits. Then it required me to manage, then it required me to scale, then it required me to systemize things, then it required me to evolve in different ways. Then I started businesses. I had to learn anything about business. I didn't know what to do when I started business. I was just making YouTube videos for fun going back 12 years ago. But then from that, I employed staff and I had challenges. And, over the years, we employ over 100 people here in the Be Invested group of companies now. And that's just constantly growing. And I look back and it's like, I didn't get born to be a leader. I didn't get born to be a boss. I didn't get born to be a manager. Half the time I don't know what I'm doing, but I just have to grow, learn the skill set, move forward, take all the learnings from that, adapt it, apply it, and grow and move forward. So, a lot of people think, it's all too hard. They start with the end goal and then they go, that's all too hard to get there, let's not do it. But it's all little baby steps. And I often think about it that if someone wants to be the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger and, work out and be built and be in some, I don't know what they call them, those gym shows where they, show off their biceps and paint themselves in bronze colouring or whatever, you're not going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight. It takes, training, it takes commitment, it takes focus, it takes passion. It all starts with one push-up, one sit-up. If we look at a sports star, I don't follow sports, but I see people out there, right? If it's, I just remember seeing that Tiger Woods guy, he had the car accident the other day. But, this guy was #1 golfer. I don't know if he still is or not, but I'm sure that guy just didn't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to be a big golfer and I'm going to, be on the PGA Tour. He had to start his swinging practices. He had to start, learning, critiquing what he does. So having clarity is one thing, having a vision is one thing, but the execution and then the preparation for that and then the changing, because I'm sure that the first few years in his career, he would have been a different person from the further few years, and it constantly grows and evolves. So, growing, no matter whether it's in business or investing or in your career or whether it be in sport or whatever your hobbies may be, your community activities, it all starts with a vision, it all starts with commitment, it all starts with taking action steps, but then it's also being fluid enough to move. Like when there's an issue, like most people just pack up their bags, get the shits and go home. And mental toughness is really important. Getting through mentally challenging times, straining times, is an issue. And most people just pack up the ball and they go, it's too hard. There's a gatekeeper there to get to the next level, and they're being held back due to the fact that they can't see past that. They can't see how to overcome that. There's not enough desire to be coming through that. So when it comes to mental toughness, a lot of people give in when they find a challenge. They think it's all too hard, without looking and reassessing and realigning. It's important to be fluid with your goals. So what I mean by that is, understanding that things change. Like if we look at property investing, for example, markets change, times change. If I'm still sitting here in 2021 trying to buy a 3-bedroom house in Western Sydney for $150,000, I'm going to be waiting a very long time because it's just not an opportunity out there. So I have to be fluid and go, okay, do I need to change the strategy a little bit? Do I need to change the market? Do I need to change my goals? What do I realign? The first thing people go to is they give up, and they're not, emotionally or mentally strong enough to keep pushing through and going, okay, how can we do this a little bit different? If I can't get there this way, how do I go about getting there another way? What is the options? Most people just get told no and they go, oh, okay. And I guess that comes back to the system of the schooling, the education, the propaganda, what we're feeding ourselves in life. this is how it is. This is the box. This is the parameters that you can play in. Don't go outside of that. Well, it's like, well, I want to get outside of that. Well, you can't. Well, how do I go about getting outside there? There's other people playing out there. Can I get outside of the box for a little bit? And trying to work out a plan to get around that. Most people, like someone sitting here wanting to get a property in Western Sydney now for $150,000, it's going to be, almost impossible to buy a house, 3-bedroom house. So do you sit there and say, I can't buy the house, so I'm just not going to buy any property? Or do you sit there and say, okay, well, that property doesn't work. Do I go and pay $600,000 for it? Well, if you pay $600,000, is that going to be getting you to your goal? No. So what's right? Do we realign our goals and say, okay, we can't reach them now? No, the goal is the goal. That's what we need to do. What can we do to get around that? So, we may not have a big enough deposit. We may have to go and buy a cheaper property. We may have to look in a different city. We may have to look in a different location. There'll always be a property that's below market value. There'll always be a property that's positive cash flow. So it's being open to move. Most people get too rigid, and that's what sort of holds them back. So having a fluid mindset that'll move within different times. Each level of success that you go through, I think, requires a different version of yourself. And I've been through these different, call them seasons. I have little jokes about it because I go through little different seasons where I'm growing up and I'm constantly learning, evolving, and trying to be the best that I can be at that point, because I only know what I know today. I didn't know what I didn't know yesterday. So the more information you can feed yourself, the more knowledge, the more planning, the more strategy, the more structure, the more systems, the more procedures. These are things that can help you, evolve and overcome those problems that come your way. So looking at some of the hurdles and the common issues that people have, like people, when they're going out to do something, whether it be, asking that girl out, whether it be, starting a business, whether it be, buying their first property, they might go and ask someone, they might know someone. A lot of them is sort of emotional decisions that drives, hold them back from what they're trying to achieve. So it could be, fear of, either missing out or fear of failure. It could be the doubt or the self-doubt. It could be, the scared or the fear of success. It could be the lack of planning because, they don't plan. They just want something. So they just go and take action to get there, but without looking at, sort of like a SWOT analysis, looking at all the opportunities, look at all the positives, look at all the negatives, look at all the, the problems that could arrive and work out the safest way of getting there. A lot of people think, Nathan takes on all this risk and he does all these crazy moves and all that sort of stuff. I'm constantly managing risk. 99% of my life is managing risk, and 1% of it is action. And that's what people see on a daily basis is when Nathan takes action. It's like, wow, he's moved that chess piece. But I had to analyze that chessboard before I take that move. Most people just move the piece and go, oh, let's see how we go. But that's hit and miss. So refining in on how you can be more strategic, having, better clarity. It keeps you away from cheap thrills too. So, a lot of time in life people get persuaded, whether it be, let's go and buy new consumerism good. Let's go out and party. We've got a level of success. I see so many people, they hit success and they get stuck in middle, like mediocre in life. They might get a bit successful in business. Then they start, hopping on the bags of Coke, right? It happens. People might get successful and then they start going out and buying stupid shit like cars on loans and, trying to get brand name things to try and impress people that don't really give a shit. People go out there and they go and party and it's like, you didn't become successful with those habits, right? Nathan Birch, for example, didn't get successful ordering bottle service at the back of the local club. It might be cool, right? He might have a good time if he was to go do that. But that's not how he became successful. And a lot of people, when they hit a level of success, they get trapped in that level of success because they do stupid things, because they want to celebrate. Then suddenly the habits, the actions, and the steps they took to get to that level, they start falling away. And then they get stuck at that position, So looking at, identifying, having clarity throughout the whole process, it is very when we look at the whole mindset of, how things work and how to be successful, and there's a lot that comes to it, but it's like remaining, mentally on point at all times to go, okay, well, I can navigate through this. That sounds great, but if I do that, what will be the option? What will be the outcome? What will be the benefit? What will be the loss? And I think, if you ask all successful people, they'll have to make these calls throughout their life on a daily basis. Like, if I turn right, that's what that direction is going to lead me to. If I turn left, that's where that direction is going to lead me to as well. So, having the right structure, the right strategy, the right vision, the right people around you, the right people that are going to motivate you, understanding, I ask people all the time for their opinion because I like their feedback, I appreciate their feedback. I could ask 10 people the same question and they could be my professional circle. And I always do it, whether it be some of my mates, my lawyers, my accountants, I'll ask them questions and they go, Nathan, you need to do this. And then suddenly I'll go do the total opposite to what they said. And they'll be like, Birchie, why'd you do that for? It fears me, right? What they say. I fear them because they fear my decision because they're like, you shouldn't do it. But they're looking at it from their vantage point. They've got they've got two eyeballs in their head. All of them, well, most of them do, they've all got two eyeballs. And they're looking from their vantage point at, what they can see, but they're not looking at it from above, from every vantage point. So you need to, you can be having your wings clipped, or, you need to understand the people that are around you and why they are giving you feedback. Respect their feedback, respect their feedback, respect their position. But most people are just pushed into fear because they go, okay, this person said to do this, so I better do this. It's like, well, if you do what this person has said, you will become the person that has become. So you've got to be careful with where you take advice. And that's why I say it's always very important to have the right team around you, have the right people. Whether it be, there's a meme out there, I think it says, if your 5 best mates are broke, you're going to be the 6th one, which is true, right? They can hold you back and whatnot. The company that you share is important. However, the advice, so if you've got a professional team around you, whether you're a sports person, you've got coaches and managers and stuff like that, whether you're a business person, you've got a success team around you, whether you're an investor and you're building out that success team, whatever it is that you've got, you want to have the best people around you that can help you get there. Because if they're giving you their feedback, that's the moves that they would have taken in life. And I often see people and I go, okay, give me your feedback. Tell me why I should do it. Show me how I'm going to get to where I want to be with me taking your advice. And if they can't, it's like, well, how do you know that your advice is going to work? They're guessing their own advice. So, it's really important to have, right people around you, no matter where you are. And that changes and evolves all the time. Like in business, I've had different people around me. In life and friend circles, I've had different people around me. And it takes you from different points in your life. People sometimes even ask me just about relationships, and I look at, let's call a guy and a girl, Tom and Sally, that went to school together. They got together, they hooked up, and they fell in love. And then 5-10 years later, they hated each other. They've got a kid and they just don't like their life. It's because they fell in love. What I look at is that those two people, fell in love with the people that they were on the day. One of them may have grown and the other one may not have. And in 10 years' time, they're two different sets of people. So whether it be you outgrowing your success team, whether it be you outgrowing your broker, your accountant, your lawyer, whatever, whether it be you outgrowing your colleagues, whether it be you outgrowing your job, whether it be you outgrowing, your business, or your business outgrowing you. So there's different times, and identifying that, acknowledging that, and sort of planning for the next level. You need to always reassess and go, what do I need to do to get there? And that's why I always talk about the Perth analogy. And I've never actually put this into a podcast or into an open video. I've only ever asked the people this question twice, and that's been in webinars. So this will be the third time I ask this question publicly, and I think it will get to a lot more people this time. The question I always ask people is, how would someone get to Perth? And I'm always greeted with the answer of, oh, you'd fly or you'd drive. And everyone's always got they puff their chest up when they say it. It's like, you just drive. Or, oh, I know, you're trying to trick me, you'd fly. No, right? You need to work out where in the fuck is Perth, right? Because there's people listening to this right now that'll be living in Perth. They don't need to go anywhere. They just walk out their door and they go, I'm in Perth. There's people that might be somewhere around Western Australia. They could just drive there. There's people overseas, in the US, in Asia, in India, in Middle East, listening to this. They need to fly. There's people in Sydney, that could walk or drive or hop in a different mode of transport. So without identifying what it is that you're trying to do, you don't really know the best vehicle to get yourself there. But if you have clarity of where it is that you're going, you have clarity as to where it is that you're starting from, then it's only truly at that point that you can work out the best vehicle to get you there. So it might be flying, it might be driving, but in most instances, people don't live in an airport, so you probably have to get to the airport first. So it might be a few different vehicles in order to get you to that end destination. And that may change, right? And travel journeys change, people's visions change. So you need to always reassess, where is that end goal? Where is the destination that you're trying to go at the moment? And then work out, what do I have around me? Do I have enough money for a bus ticket? Do I have enough money for an aeroplane ticket? Like, what is the sequence of actions that you need to take? And, whether that's, how to be the best swinger in golf, or whether it be the best swimmer in swimming, or whether it be the best, musician, whether it be the best, whatever it is, the best business person, you need to keep refining your skill set. You need to keep refining who it is that you want to be, where it is that you're going, where exactly you are at the time, and then, reroute yourself just like a GPS and go, okay, well, this is the move I need to take next in order to get there. I see so many people without having that clarity, without having those simple processes in place, and they just go, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, well, maybe I could look at it from that perspective. You need to be very sharp. You need to be able to identify these things and move quickly. A week, a day, a month, very, very crucial, right? A week will slowly turn into a month, and a month will slowly turn into a year, and a year will turn into a decade, and a decade will turn into your life. So, you don't want to, when you make moves, you want to make them fast, but you want to know that when you're making that move, you've identified everything else around the room and go, okay, this is the best move, and I'm going to make it. And then go, what do I need to do now? So that's just a little bit of a rant. I think I went on a little bit of a rant today with, my thoughts around mindset and, struggles in business, struggles in investing, struggles in personal life. There's heaps of shit that's gone wrong in my life. There's been heaps of shit that's gone wrong in business. Heaps, more than you could imagine. There's heaps of shit that's gone on financially for me to get to where I am. I'm worth over $100 million now, but there's been times where I can't even afford food, right? I remember once, it was so shit, I walked around, this was probably like 5 years ago, I settled $10 million worth of property, and half of it was cash, but I walked around with a pocket full of fucking gold coins, right? Maybe like $300 worth of coins in my winter jacket that I was using at the time. I used it to buy smokes, because I used to smoke cigarettes. They were cool back in the day. And I used to, at the time I needed to put petrol in the car, whatever, but I was so broke. Even though I'd done something so cool, I was still so broke, it was still a challenge. Most people were saying, Birchie, why don't you sell some properties? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They didn't understand my goal. They didn't understand their vision. I listened to them. I respected it. I saw where they were coming from. I tried to fit it into my goal. I tried to look at what would it look like further on down the track. And then I realised that looks like too much of a risk for my decision. So I didn't want to go there. So I've faced business issues. I've faced, personal issues with people. I've had issues with confrontation with people. I've had issues with people that I've known that have turned into be idiots. I've known people that have, get emotionally crazy and stuff like that. And, you can either sit there and get involved and buy into that, or you can just go, well, I don't want to be a part of that. And then just be able to move on and not let your emotion take over, because common sense says it's not right. And emotion tells you, oh, well, I've got to say this or I've got to do that. You have the choice. Which one do you want to go down the road of? And logical decision always wins, but, people will stop there and, let their emotions take over sometimes, and then that'll get them hurt. So looking at it from an investing perspective, I've had, shit go wrong, deals not go through. I've never lost a deposit. I've never lost money from selling a property. But there's been times where I've had to sell properties, for example, just because I needed to buy more, and I was like, I don't want to sell them. But I did because I had to, because that's what I had to do on the day. So things go wrong. There was a point, as I said beforehand, I couldn't settle $10 million worth of property. I settled every single one of them, and then suddenly I started talking about the system, and then the media started writing a story saying Nathan's going broke, right? And that's a funny one because, it's just the way that the system works. But looking at it, like, there's always been something, whether it be how do I get my first deposit, whether it be how do I get my first loan, whether it be how do I get my second property, to the 10th property, to the 50th property, the 100th property, to businesses. How do I deal with a staff issue? How do I deal with a business issue? How do I deal with a finance issue? How do I deal with a life issue? How do I deal with a family issue? Everybody's family has things that go wrong. I was 16, my dad died of a heart attack. I could sit here and go, oh, poor me. But, that's something that happened, but it's not my life, right? That's the same as the trip on your journey from where you are to get to Perth. The car or the bus or the train is the vehicle. It's not the destination. So something may go wrong, good or bad. If something goes wrong, it's normally bad, but something might happen that's good or bad. And, you can have a positive or a negative outcome from that, and you can take a course of actions. But those course of actions, you need to look at that and go, is that going to help me get closer to where I want to be? Whether it be holistically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, career-wise, family-wise, whatever the case may be. Is that going to get me closer? Or is it just better to go, okay, cool, that's cool. I identified that this could not be great. I can make a decision to get myself closer to where I want to be. So there's so many distractions in life, especially as I started off with this episode. People have access to media. They can flick on the TV. They can get whatever information they want off the internet. You can spend that time for good. You can spend that time for bad. You can use a gun to protect yourself, or you can use the gun to harm someone. Everything can be used for good or bad. Having an understanding, having knowledge, having clarity on that, and having the EQ to go, okay, this is the right thing or this is not the right thing, and constantly just reassessing and making sure that, you're in line with who you are, you're in line with your health, you're in line with the person you want to become. If you're not doing the steps on becoming the person you want to be, then you're not going to be the person you want to be. You can't go to Macca's 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, and eat that bad food and go, I want to be ripped and built and healthy and all that sort of stuff. It just doesn't come hand in hand. I want to be sharp, but I want to go to the pub every day and spit beer at the TV and say, my team, we won the game, or whatever the case may be. It just doesn't come hand in hand. You need to do the actions to get the outcome. So just remembering, having clarity around it really helps with determining, where you're going to be in the future. And I can tell from people's attitude when I speak to them. I can see their commitment. I can see the dedication. I can see, how they move. And, working with thousands of people over the years, right? Like, I just look at myself and go, this is my life. I don't look at it too intrinsically. It's only when I get quizzed on it, like today, that I'll put together the podcast that I go, okay, these are some of the things that I look at. But I see people, like literally thousands of people that have helped out over the years. Some have had tremendous success. Some have had only minimal success. But that is predominantly determined on the actions of what they took. So whether they're too conservative, they've got too much fear, they've been too ballsy, they've taken too much risk on, for positive or negative, they haven't managed that correctly. So, like the mindset is crucial. So, are you going to, when you take that move, I see people going, yep, I'll go do this. I'll go buy 5 houses today. And I'm like, fuck, don't buy 5 houses, buy 2, because you're going to screw yourself up. Let's look at it from this perspective. And generally people go, oh yeah, wow, that's great. Yeah, we should do 2. And then we'll come back in a month and do another 2. So you want to plan it. You want to have strategy. And you want to minimize risk. Risk minimization is very, very crucial. And as I said beforehand, I'm confident I said it beforehand, 99% of my day is about risk minimization, and 1% of my day I make really ballsy, gangster, cool moves by going, this is what we're going to do, because I have clarity and everything else is in check, and I know that my risk is minimized, so I can be comfortable with those decisions. So on that note, share with us, what are your thoughts, and what are you struggling with at the moment? Is there anything that we can help you out with? Is there some way that we can help guide you closer to where you want to be? With it, if you need help, you know what to do. You can keep listening to us here at the No BS with Birchie podcast, which comes out every Tuesday. You can head over to beinvested.com.au if you're interested in getting started or need some guidance in where you're at currently with your property journey. And we're on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, so go check it out. And finally, a lot of people ask on a regular basis, that's cool, Nathan. You tell everyone you started when you were 13 years old. You started hustling and all that sort of stuff. And I'll do an extra couple of minutes here about a little bit of a journey of how I got my first deposit. So when I was 13 years old, my brothers were all in their 30s, so I was a surprise package. My parents were nearly 50 when they gave birth to me. And I was never the child. I never wanted to go and play with a toy or have any friends or anything like that. And my brothers were having properties and had cars and stuff like that. My family were very hardworking. They still are, still very blue collar, and they just very different mindset. And I was like, I want to have a house. And I was 13. And I was like, I want to own a property. Rich people own property. I want to own a property. And I'd actually seen a property boom that went throughout 1998, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, and I was seeing house prices rise, and I started to prognosticate what it would look like to own a property. And I remember I could have bought a property in 1998 in Sydney for about $60,000. Most of my friends were having magazines with girls in them. I was looking at magazines with houses in them, and the thing is that the house prices were going up from 60,000 to 80,000 to 100,000 to 120, 140, 150 grand. And I kept thinking every time I'd save up 10 grand, the property's gone up sort of 30 grand. And that's when I started realizing how inflation worked and all the other weird things that I talk about on a daily basis and weekly basis with you guys. And I wanted to own property, so that's what got me into property. I was sort of motivated at a young age. And I was working. I was like, okay, how can I get enough cash together so the day I turn 18, I can go and sign a contract? And that was almost 18 years ago. So it's basically half my life I've been investing now. And I remember when I was trying to save up the deposits, I was working in a family business, and I was saving up everything I could. And interest rates at the time were sort of like 10%, and people were like, fear of debt and all that sort of stuff. Very different market to today. But looking at that, I was like, okay, I can build an active income by bringing in cash flow on, from working a job and whatnot. But then what else could I do? So I started flipping things like caravans and cars and, old computers. Funny thing is, before I left school, I actually wanted to be an IT technician. Things were very different. The internet used to be called the information superhighway back in the 90s, for those of you that are old. But yeah, I wanted to be an IT guy. And I used to build computers for people and hustle parts and try and flip things constantly. And that enabled me when I was 18 to be able to have a deposit to go and buy my first property in Western Sydney. And I worked 2 jobs between the ages 17 and 24. And I basically just funneled all my cash that I could earn into my assets. A lot of people ask me, Nathan, how can my kids get involved? You were 13 years old when you started investing. And, it's important that they understand how money works. They understand how things work out there when it comes to the world that we live in. And there's a book out there now. It's called The A to Z of Money by Haley Brooks and Jeff Brooks. And it is a book with the A to Z of money, based for children, starting from a very young age of sort of like 3, 4, 5. Look out yourself, and might be something worthwhile for getting your children started on how to invest. So thanks a lot for listening, guys. We'll catch you next week. Bye for now.